Alrighty, g'day guys. Welcome back to Stat Chat Sports. You're here with me, Josh. We've got all four boys, Steve, BT, Tazza. We are back here reviewing the prelim final week. It was huge. It was amazing. But first, Steve, terrific work from you last week, hosting the show. I've still got internet issues, but I'm here. I'm pushing through, but you were terrific, mate.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, we made sure we got through without you. So you're lucky to be here, to be perfectly honest, because there were calls for your head after the last week that you were no longer needed after my I suppose taking control of the podcast and the job that was done. So, but we're happy to have you back, mate.
Yeah, no, it's good to be back. Well-deserved spell in the twos. Hopefully I'll lift this week. And it is a big week. It is grand final week. But first, let's talk about the prelims. Two big games, one of them probably more exciting than the other. Let's start with the fizzer first. BT, Geelong, Brisbane, 71-point thumping on Friday night. This wasn't overly a surprise, was it?
No, and if you tuned in last week, we kind of predicted this. We thought it was going to be a pretty easy Geelong win. I personally said Brisbane played their grand final the week before, so it was perfect for Geelong with these old boys, get an easy game through, get another week's rest leading the grand final. They just dismantled this Brisbane team. It was no effort at all there.
Tazza, I want to talk not so much about the old boys, but some of the young small forwards, because I think that, the three small forwards, Brian Myers, one of the best first names in footy, Brad Close, Tyson Stengel, they were terrific, huge influence on the outcome of this game, and they've been really good all year.
Yeah, obviously Tyson Stengel making the All-Australian team, huge effort, and continued that into the prelim. Brian Myers has been a curious case there. He started off pretty well, but he sort of tapered off a little bit towards the end of the season, but we've seen him return to some form, which is nice. And Brad Close has been super impressive for me. I mean, he's obviously Stengel's got all the plaudits for kicking the goals, but the work that Close does is so underrated and is pretty unheralded, with the stuff he does. So yeah, along with the big gorillas, as you like to say, it's a pretty formidable forward line up there.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Sydney this week. Steve, let's talk about Paddy Dangerfield. He was terrific, really getting into some good form at the moment, and he's been well rested. So he's fit, he's firing. He had 16 posies in the first half last week. He was immense.
Yeah, Pat Dangerfield, he's the man that you want in these final games, I suppose. I don't know if there's the term Mr. September's thrown around a fair bit between a fair few players, but he's got to be up there, like 28 touches, 2 goals. He does what he does best, and hitting the form that you want him to hit in the grand final. Well, heading into the grand final, I suppose. He's been doing it for the last however many years that he's been classified as a top player in the league. So perfect time for him to start hitting some form.
He's a man on a mission as well. I think 7 prelim finals, but this is only going to be his second grand final. Still hasn't captured the elusive flag. So BT, he's got a lot to play for in this game. Really to cement that legacy as one of the best players of the 21st century.
He definitely needs that premiership on his resume. Like Tazza put in our group chat when that game started, and he started on a house on fire. Paddy Dangerfield wants that premiership, and you could just see exactly how he's playing that game. He was ferocious at that ball. He was clearly best on ground, and even he kind of died off in the last quarter because he didn't need to do anything. So he could have easily ended up with 35 plus disposals in that game. So quality player, and he deserves a premiership. He actually does.
Yeah, it's a good call. Do want to turn my attention to some of the more unheralded blokes, and that is the backman. And the backline stood up for the Cats. Brisbane could not do anything to break down this defence. I think Brisbane had no points from turnover until the fourth quarter, which is unheard of. Tommy Stewart patrolling down back. He didn't necessarily get the numbers, but him being able to be the loose down there just freed up the other guys. Colin Jasny had 13 intercepts on the night. Henry, he was picking things off as well. So Tazza, this Geelong backline, really impressive. They structure up so well. And we'll touch on it later in the week, but this is something that Sydney is going to have to break down to win the grand final.
Yeah, throw in Sam De Koning into that mix. I think he comes second in the Rising Star, so they're so well stacked in that back line there. And there's a lot of guys that don't get the plaudits that they should, like Colin Jasny. He just does a job every week in, week out. He's crucial to that operation back there. And then when you've got, like you said, Stewart, the ability to have a loose man but still be able to hold you, for that to be your system, it's so valuable for him to drift in and out whenever he wants, take a man, drift off the play. It's so good.
Let's talk about Brisbane for a little bit. It was hard to watch for Brisbane supporters, and we do have a few Brisbane supporters that do watch the channel regularly. Shout out to Justin Timberlake's brother, all the way from the States. Regular watcher, no, he would not have been happy with that performance. But BT, the question I've got for you, is this the end of Brisbane's window? 4 years in a row, they've gone reasonably deep into finals, haven't been able to get it done. The list's getting a bit old. Is this it?
I don't think it's getting too old, though, when you compare it to like a Geelong team, obviously. Plus, there's a lot of talks with these players come from different clubs wanting to join Brisbane. So I don't think it's the end. They've got to sort their shit out in this finals. They clearly struggle. Melbourne, when they beat Melbourne was clearly struggling in the second half of the season. They were 8-6 or something in the second half. So they weren't even a good team. Brisbane, they're a good enough team. Still are, clearly, to make a prelim, but I don't think so. I think they'll bounce back next season. They'll still be up there. They'll still be a hard team to beat, but they need to stop relying on something like Lachie Neale so much. If it wasn't for him, then they'd be barely pushing finals type thing.
And Steve, a bit of heat on our man Smoking Joe. Hasn't had a good final series. Obviously missed the semi-final as well. What do the Lions do with him? Because he shows moments of brilliance and then he just fades out of games as well. So where do they go with Smoking Joe?
I think you maybe just got to try and just stick with it for a little bit longer. See if you can get a little bit more out of him. They've probably not gotten the best of what he can offer. He certainly didn't hit the heights that BT was hoping he was going to hit this season. But I don't really know where else to go with him. You don't just want to dump him off somewhere else because he is a good player. He's just, he's just maybe just had one of those seasons. I think you just hold on to him for at least another season. You see how it goes, because I think there's more. There's certainly more he can offer for him. He just didn't really show it this season.
Yeah, and certainly with McStay on the way out, Danaher and Hipwood, they're going to have to really form a good duo there and kick some goals and be consistent for Brisbane, I think, to keep going all the way. But BT, you're right. They've got a few wins coming in. So Dunkley, I think, announced today or yesterday when you're watching this that he is preferring to go to Brisbane. They've got Will Ashcroft, the number 1 pick. He's going to be good for their midfield. So, yeah, a few pieces coming in. So not all doom and gloom for Brisbane. Fellas, let's talk about what was an epic prelim final on Saturday afternoon, Sydney Collingwood. Gee whiz, another close game for Collingwood. They just are giving their fans heart attacks all year. BT, your thoughts on this one, because it was an incredible finish.
Oh, it was a typical SCG Sydney final. They always produce the goods come finals time. It's quality prelim final that was. Somehow, Collingwood managed to get back into that game right down to the last seconds. But Steve, earlier in the season, he said Collingwood would go all the way because they've got this clutch factor. What a load of bullshit that was. Come to real games, they clearly struggle. They can't find a win. So it doesn't matter when it comes to finals. You got to win them. So shithouse team.
Now, BT, come on. Now you have had some Collingwood supporters up and about, not happy with you. James Christou, they're looking for apologies, mate. Anything coming your way? Because they have been very impressive this year. You got to say, a really good season for Collingwood.
Mate, I'm not giving in at all. I'm not going down to your level and making a whole video just to get on the Collingwood supporters side. Not happening.
It's not a matter of getting down to their level. I think you just got to acknowledge that this is an incredible season from the Pies. 17th to a kick away from the grand final. I mean, we didn't see this coming. None of us saw this coming, fellas.
No, they clearly had a good season, but I think there was clearly other teams who were better than them, and a couple of those results go the other way. They don't even make top 4, and we're not even talking about them right now. I think it was more luck that they made it this far than actual skill.
Okay, so do you think that Collingwood's going to make the top 4 next year?
I think they'll struggle to make top 6, let alone maybe even top 8.
Jeepers creepers.
That's a good call.
There's a good call.
Yes. I'm not taking anything away from Collingwood. They played really well this year, but they did. They got lucky. They won too many games by such a small margin, and all it took was a few bounces here, a few bounces there, and they're losing not half a dozen, but 2 or 3 of those games, and like BT said, they're out of the top 4. They don't get the double chance. So, I mean, they're going to lose a few pieces. They might gain some, but they're not going to put on another streak like that again. And they're not that good of a team to be dominating other teams, to be forcing themselves back into the top 4. So, I mean, they're not going to drop out of the 8, but they're not going to make the top 4 either.
Yeah, look, I think certainly they're a top 8 team, but I do agree to an extent. There is going to be a little bit of regression. I agree, but looking like De Goey might re-sign, going against my bold prediction from early in the season. I think that they're going to be thereabouts again next year, Steve. I mean, what do you think, mate? You were on the Collingwood bandwagon a little bit.
Yeah, I think they might make the 8. I don't know if they'll go on as good a run as they've done. Like they said, that they've certainly had some luck this season, but you need luck. Every sport you need luck in games to get you across the line. Like, and as the old saying is, a win is a win at the end of the day. They're not going to give a shit about how it came. They won. So they'll take all those games that they won by a point or less than a kick, should I say, right at the end of the games, because a win is a win. Will that happen next year? Maybe not. It might, but that's just the thing. That's the whole point of luck. They got the luck this year. They might not get it next year, but I think they've got a decent enough core to at least push for the top 8, but maybe not the top 4, top 6 like we saw this year.
Some controversial opinions here. I know there's going to be some people up and about in the comments, and we'd like to hear from them. James Christou, get up and about. Troy Wilson, get stuck in, mate. We want to hear from that. But let's talk Sydney, because Sydney got the job done. Very impressive win in a prelim final, in a tight prelim final. And Tazza, I want to talk about some of the tools. I want to talk about Sam Reid, because his first half was incredible in this game, and Tom Hickey as well, playing a really important role for the Swans in the ruck.
Yeah, Sam Reid, I mean, he's not the centerpiece of that forward line at all, but he is a crucial piece, and at the time of recording, it looks like he's probably not going to get up for the grand final. So it's a tough one to replace. They've got guys like probably Joel Amati. I'm not sure if McLean was in the side. He probably slots in. Laddams would have been in if he wasn't dropping late hits on guys in the VFL, but too bad.
Yeah.
So he'll miss. He'll serve the last week of his suspension. So, I mean, he's just done himself out of a prime opportunity to suit up for a GF. But yeah, it's a tough one. But Tom Hickey, I mean, the old journeyman. He's the definition of a journeyman in the AFL. He's the Ks that he's travelled with the teams. I think he's the most travelled AFL footballer in terms of Ks covered between the teams that he's played for. So it's a good story, and you love to see that for guys like that finally finding a home and playing well after really being thrown around the league.
It's a good stat. I like that, and I think Hickey's going to have a lot to play, a big part to play later on in the grand final. But yeah, 2 awesome games. Great to see. Let's touch quickly on the Brownlow medal. Held on Sunday, a little unconventional, obviously with the Queen's passing, but it was a tight count, fellas. And Steve, in the end, it was Paddy Cripps. Paddy Cripps coming through ahead of Lockie Neal and the Tuk Tuk to claim his first Brownlow medal.
Yeah, I can't say that I watch the Brownlow medal every year, but that's probably one of the closest final rounds I think I've ever seen for in my time at least. Going into the last round, I think four of them could have won it. But yeah, I mean, I think he deserves it. I got no issues with him winning it. I know I had him in a top. I think most of us, if not all of us, might have had him finishing in their top 3 picks from our Brownlow picks last week. So us, along with everybody else, I suppose, was in agreement that he deserved to at least be in with a shout for it. So yeah, good on him. WA lad as well, which is good as well. So
everyone except for Gil was happy with this award. I think Gil not happy about the suspension being overturned. So good to see the main man not happy with that. BT, how about the stat on West Coast here? 15 votes through the whole count, lowest of all time. Unbelievable stuff.
I think it's well deserved. They were shit house. Me. I'm considering giving up my membership after watching that season, especially now Josh Kennedy's not there.
Well, the leading vote getter for the Eagles as well.
Yeah.
6 votes. I mean, geez.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. I think one of the questions that we had on the show last week was, will the winner poll more votes than North Melbourne? Maybe it should have been, will the winner poll more votes than the Eagles? Because, that was a stinker.
What did North Melbourne end up? Poll?
31, I think.
Oh, okay. Just
LDU polling, not quite double figures, but he nearly polled more than the Eagles team. Yeah. Quick one to touch on as well. Sammy Draper, goal of the year. Little bit controversial here.
Terrible
Steve, you're
goal.
not happy.
no, I'm not happy at all. The person who should have won it wasn't even in the short list, so that was pathetic. if any of them, I think Josh Dacos probably should have won it. Personally, I think he deserved it. But that Draper goal, I mean, I could probably do that.
I would like to see that, actually. Let's get you out in the field and let's see it happen.
Let's get us
you're
in
just
there
not
for
happy
goal
because...
recreations.
Let's see that. That's good content. That's really good content. Maybe the marks recreations as well, because Georgiades clearly was not an impressive mark this year. Wasn't even the mark of the round. So I'm not sure how it got mark of the year. It's a terrible call, Tazza. As the Port Adelaide man here, do you have any words on this?
I probably agree with you, to be honest. I'm very surprised at one. Look, I'm happy because we really took nothing out of that season apart from that. So look, it's cool, but I personally believe Hayden Young's in the same game was better.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a terrible call again, I think.
Worst year for mark of the year and goal of the year. There was no good ones at all. Georgia just didn't even hold the ball the whole way down, really. As soon as he hit the ground and popped out. It was shit house.
Yep. Well, some terrible calls all round there with the mark of the year, goal of the year. All Australian selectors, terrible once again. We should definitely be doing the job. I think it's only fitting, fellas. Look, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Quick announcement before we finish up. I haven't quite got to 500 subs, but we will be doing a live stream next Monday. Wrap up from the grand final, bit of a Mad Monday style. Make sure you tune into that. 7 p.m. Australian Standard Time, 5 p.m. Western Standard Time. The boys will be together. Looking forward to having you on board. More details throughout the rest of the week.